Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our brand new series, Getting Personal with Parkinson's Facebook Live event. I'm Caroline Colas, and I am the Senior Director of Health and Wellness for the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, and the Program Coordinator for the Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's Wellness Program here at the JCC in partnership with Northwell Health. For over 12 years, the JCC has been hosting programs for individuals living with Parkinson's, and you can find these programs on our website at www.mmjccm.org/Parkinsons. I'm so excited to be joining you every week right here on the JCC Facebook page. We want this event to be personal. We want to put a face to Parkinson's and introduce you to people living with PD and thriving with PD. We will also speak with experts who will share updates in research and maybe even a celebrity or a medical expert or two. This program is for everyone whose life has been impacted by PD, those diagnosed, as well as family and friends. So let's create the show together, shall we? Let us know if you want to be a guest or if you know of someone you would want to feature or want us to feature and talk to. And if there's a specific topic, I never can say that word, that is of interest to you. All inquiries can be directed to Whitney Chapman at wchapman@mmjccm.org, or you can put them in the Facebook chat too. And now I'm excited to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Pam Quinn. Pam is a professional dancer, choreographer, and PD coach who was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's over 20 years ago. Her dance background has been an exceptional tool that she has used to discover creative solutions to the problems caused by Parkinson's. She's taken what she's learned and put it into her PD Movement Lab class to help students build physical and mental strategies for living with PD. She teaches this class for us here at the JCC on Mondays and at Mark Morris Dance Studio in Brooklyn on Fridays. If I can celebrate her for one more moment, let me also recognize that Pam's brilliance has made her a sought-after teacher and speaker in the international PD community. She has presented her work at 3 World Parkinson's Congresses and at the American Congress of Rehabilitation Medicine. We're delighted that she is part of our Parkinson's teaching faculty here at the JCC. Pamela and I had a chat that was pre-recorded that we're going to show to you now. And then we'll be meeting with her live afterwards for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, as you listen to the conversation, just put them in the comment section and we will happily answer them. And now, on with the show. Pam, it's great to see you, and Colin.
Hello.
Good to see you too. It's always great to see family. You know, one of the things that's been great about COVID, if there's been some silver linings. I mean, we have to be honest, right? And one of them is that I've gotten to see everyone's homes, you know, inside their homes and meet some of their family members and stuff. And I know you help your mom out quite a bit, and I know on Mondays with the technology, right?
Yes, I do. That was, as it was for everyone, it was quite a surprise when everything happened last March. But Whitney has been really great working with her and us, and so I mean, it's a steep learning curve, and it's an even steeper learning curve for people with Parkinson's. So
yeah. Well, so appreciate that. And how has it been? It feels like, you know, when we were warming up and you were helping, it feels like you're an artist too, Colin. Are you?
No. Only genetically. Only genetically.
Only genetically, but you seem like you have a problem-solving sort of artist mind. No, Pam, would you?
Well, he played a big role in the video Boxed In. In fact, I had gotten material from my students, and then I had shelved it because I wasn't sure what to do with it. And he took it off the shelf and put it to some music and showed it to me. And I said, go with that, go with it. So we developed it from there. But
aha, I proved my point.
That's right.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. Well, how has it been for you having a mom that has Parkinson's?
Wow, what a big question. I always tell people that it wasn't, I mean, she was diagnosed when I was 3 years old. And from my understanding, although I have no recollection, she had symptoms from the time I was 1 year old. So it wasn't even something I perceived. I mean, I have a really acute memory of, we went on a field trip and she came. I was in maybe 4th or 5th grade. So, you know, what is that, 9, 10 years old, something like that. And someone said, why does your mom have a limp? And I said, what limp? What are you talking about? And so I didn't even perceive it. The only thing I kind of knew, I remember lying in bed at night as a small child, and I always knew whether it was my mom or my dad who was coming to say goodnight to me, because I could hear the pattern of their footsteps. But I always just assumed that everyone's mom and dad had different walking patterns that you know, you could identify. So it's, I mean, obviously it's a very real thing that I'm aware of, especially now. But for the longest time, she did a fantastic job of, you know, it didn't even occur to me.
Wow. Wow. And how was it for you, Pam, being a mom, living with so young?
I was very conscious of answering whatever questions they had. And I say they because Colin has another brother too. And giving them answers, but not giving them too much information. So finding that right balance between helping them understand what is going on, but not scaring them. And that was what I tried to achieve. But, you know, also there's something to be said for having to run after kids, for keeping you young. It didn't allow me to focus on myself. I had to focus on them. Right. And I developed certain techniques, like when they would run down the sidewalk, I could whistle like that. So that they learned that meant for them to stop, because I couldn't run necessarily to get them. So I had to figure out other means to control them on the street. And that's what I used.
That's fabulous. That's a good whistle. I wish I could whistle. Now, can you whistle, Colin, as well?
That's as far as I got. I tried she tried to teach me, but I never got it.
I can make it really loud.
I bet. Yeah. Well, thank you, Colin, for joining us just for a moment and helping out your mom so much. We might have to call you back.
I will be in waiting. So otherwise, you two enjoy.
All right.
Oh, he's so lovely.
Yes, he is.
So, what is your relationship now with Parkinson's disease?
It's sort of a love-hate relationship, I guess you could say, in that it's with me all the time, and it's oppressive that way. But it's also given me a second career, a purpose in life, and a host of friends, people that I would never have otherwise met if it hadn't been for PD. I mean, PD is very democratic, and it strikes anyone. And so it's given me a reason to be in a certain way, and that's very gratifying. But on the other hand, there are times when you get pretty tired of it.
Yeah. Well, you danced with one of my favorite dance companies, ODC.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know it was one of your favorites.
Oh, yeah, because I'm a California girl, so.
Oh, wow. So I was a founding member of ODC.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I remember dancing with workshops in San Francisco.
Wow.
I probably took your class.
Yeah, we might have overlapped.
That's wild. And how did you get into dance in general in the beginning? Were you always?
Well, I was a real athlete as a youngster, and I figure skated and competed, and that involved music, and it was very athletic and outdoors. And then when I went away to high school, I went to a boarding school called Emma Willard. And there was a fabulous dance teacher there called Pat Peterson. And the social context was very much against competition that we found in sports, and much more towards collective working together and in an artistic fashion. And so my interest in athleticism sort of moved into the arts. And that was how I began to be involved in dance.
Wow. Collaboration sounds like it's been important to you for a long time.
Yeah, it has been.
Mm-hmm. And then when how did you get to New York?
Well, I was with ODC for about 10 years, and I had joined the company right out of college. It had emerged out of Oberlin College. ODC was for Oberlin Dance Collective. And I wanted to take a year off. I wanted some independence, and I was working with an actor, Michael O'Connor, who's also my husband, and we were doing dance theater work, and we decided to take a year off from California and come to New York. And so we did, and we stayed and performed here for about 10 years before I was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
And what made you suspicious that it was Parkinson's, or did you know?
I had no idea what it was. I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't familiar with the disease, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I was fairly shocked when I was diagnosed.
How did you even know which doctor to go to?
Well, I knew I should see a neurologist, and she had never said anything about Parkinson's to me. She just said, let's keep an eye on this being, it was a tremor in my left hand. And then I lost my arm swing, and I had a limp, and other symptoms began to appear, at which point she said, I think you need to see a specialist. And she sent me to Susan Bressman and Dr. Dower, who were at Columbia at the time. This was in 1996.
Wow.
When I was diagnosed. My first symptoms appeared in 94, so it was a ways away.
How old were you?
42.
Wow. So it was early.
Yeah.
And when you got the diagnosis, were you just shocked, or were you relieved on some level to know what it was?
Both, really both, because I had a name to put to it so I could study it and figure out what was going on. But it was also frightening. As a dancer, my whole life revolved around movement, my identity, my work, my social life. And so to have a movement disorder was dramatic in trying to envision what my future held.
Yeah, I can imagine that was in some ways, at least initially, devastating news.
Yeah, and I didn't want to tell anyone because I wasn't comfortable with the idea myself yet, and I had to figure out how I was going to lead my life before I shared the news with other people, because I just wasn't ready to do that.
And then how did you, you really have danced with it, and you've really, as you said, that love-hate relationship, and how did that evolve, right?
Well, I wanted to have a second child, so I couldn't go on any medication. So I had to figure out ways to move that could deal with my symptoms that were non-chemical. And I stopped taking dance class because it put me in a bad mood all the time, because I was just reminded of what I couldn't do anymore. And I didn't want that in my face all the time. But I did have my analytical background, which had come from taking technique class in ballet and modern. So I used those tools to analyze what was going on with my body. And I began to try to develop ways to counteract those things. And I came up with a bunch of strategies that helped me. And I thought, well, I wonder if these are going to help other people. And so at that time, I contacted Oli Westheimer because I had heard about Dance for PD. And I met with her for lunch. It turned out she had gone to Oberlin too. And I said, I want to start a class called that's a lab, a place to experiment with different techniques for Parkinson's. It'll be dance-based because that's my background, but it won't be limited to that. And she said, come work. And so that was the beginning of that. And that was about in 2005, 2006.
Beautiful. Always amazing. It was fun to meet her and see her class and see yours, and then have you join our staff.
Yeah, I was thrilled, and I still am thrilled to be part of your group.
I have, of course, been in class with you and gotten a chance to assist you at times, and which was just one of the most joyous times for me to witness your creativity. You call it problem solving, but it's very unique way of problem solving. It's incredibly creative. So
thank you.
It sounds like it served you well. And so you had your second child, and was that Colin?
No, that was Colin's the first. Liam is the second. He's not here today.
Okay. And did you and your husband continue? You said he's an actor and you're a dancer. Did you continue your work together through the years?
No, we sort of stopped once I was diagnosed, and eventually I thought that was it for me as far as choreography. I mean, I didn't really envision going back to it at all. And then Oli told me, she said, hey, the World Parkinson Congress is having a video competition. Do you want to make anything? And I said, I don't know, but I had, over the years, I'd been collecting a sort of mental file of experiences I had with Parkinson's. And I knew I could use them in some way at some time. I didn't know whether I'd write a book or what I would do with them. But anyway, I put them together and I made this solo dance called Welcome to Our World. If anybody wants to see it, it's on my website. And it won the competition. And it was great. So that started me back into choreographing.
You know, maybe we should actually show that because I think it's quite beautiful.
My first son, Colin, was in first grade. He came home one day and said, Mommy, Charlie said you're going to die soon. I said, Colin, we're all going to die sometimes, but I'm not going to die soon. He had only known me with my Parkinson's. How I moved was normal to him. He had never seen me as a professional dancer. It angered me that his sense of security in the world was being affected by this disease. It was a beautiful spring day. I was walking up out of the subway and a man's eyes locked onto me. He said, I'm going to heal you. He was wearing a big black cape. He said, I'm going to heal you. And he followed me down the street. And he did kind of heal me because he made me walk a whole lot faster. And once I got away from him, I thought, maybe he's an angel in disguise. My second son, Liam, was 2 when the World Trade Center was attacked. I was pushing him in the stroller up the West Side Highway. There were throngs of people. They were hysterical. They were calling on phones. They were shaking. Everyone was shaking. I felt guilty for taking pleasure in that moment. I didn't tell anyone because it felt disrespectful. Parkinson's is full of surprises and contradictions. Sometimes we can't move, and other times we can't stop ourselves from moving. We're like athletes because we nurture our bodies, we cajole them, we work them every day. And how we feel about ourselves at any particular moment is directly related to how our body functions. I've had this disease for over 15 years. I hate it, and I'm thankful for it. I hate the fact that it's robbed me of my body, of my dreams for my future, of things I can do with my kids. I'm grateful for the patience it's taught me, the compassion, perseverance of spirit. Welcome to our world.
I was diagnosed in '96, and I did start Movement Lab in 2005, I think, 2006. So it was, about 10 years.
Wow.
And then I started, Welcome to Our World was in 2010.
Wow. And how did it feel to have dance back into your life?
Oh, it felt good. It was who I was, and just walking into the studio at the JCC or at Mark Morris and having other people there who were there to move and working with music and it was so much a part of who I was that it was a good thing.
Well, it's beautiful. And I know I've gotten a chance to watch some of your rehearsals and participate. You did a piece too. Didn't you do a piece in Montreal? Or was that in Portland? One of them I was in.
Let's see. In
Bubbles or something. Where did we do?
Oh yeah, we did it with the balls.
Yes.
Right. That was in Portland.
Yeah. That was
Right.
fun. And again, I don't know how you pulled that together, how you got everybody organized. And it was really visually beautiful and so accepting of wherever anyone was. How has that been as an artist for you to make art with
That's
ranges of disabilities or
that's
abilities, not even disabilities, abilities?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I've had to find a way to make art for this population that can't remember one moment to the next. The first piece I made, we had one rehearsal a week, and each rehearsal they would be repeating the same thing because they couldn't remember what to do. And I thought, how am I going to make a dance on people who can't remember sequence? And I ended up developing a text that went through the piece with, there were volunteers in it who didn't have PD as well. So they'd say, Sally, come over here and let's make a bridge together. Then the Parkinson person would know to come over there and do it. So I interwove that text as a way to deal with this issue. And that became sort of the musical score. And then every piece after that, Ooh Ah was a piece that had a conductor doing the movement so people could mirror. And another piece I had duets with the person in Parkinson's sitting on the lap of a non-person with Parkinson's, working them like a puppet so they could move their limbs. And then I had another piece where people were facing each other in chairs, doing movement that's very tactile, so they knew what to do. And I positioned the chairs in such a way that every PD person could see a non-PD person. So you have all these extra structural buttresses in there to allow the piece to happen for this population.
Once again, strategies, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about, okay, what do I want? And then you're like, oh, I want a second child. Well, I can't have any medication. Okay, so how can I move, right? And strategizing in that way. And then here again, oh, I want to create art, not just get people moving around. I want to create art. So one of the things that you do with dancing is memorize a movement sequence. Well, that's challenging for this population. So what am I going to do around that? And again, more strategies. So we see this repeatedly throughout your career.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that's really what healthy aging is about. It's about adaptation and figuring out what you can do and what you can't do, and then applying that to whatever situation you're in. And in Parkinson's, it's hard because you have to know, when do I challenge myself and still be safe? And when do I give in and know, okay, this is too difficult for me now. It's time to move on to another phase. And that's, making those adjustments is part of living with the disease.
Yeah, and it's also part of aging, as you said.
Yeah.
Right, and you have both of those things happening at the same time. Well, we got a chance to be roommates at the World Congress.
Yes, we did. Yes, that was great fun.
That was so much fun. And I remember one of the things that surprised me was I didn't know at night, I don't know if I've ever told you this, or maybe I did, if you would be like thrashing around when you were sleeping. You know, we were sharing a room. You had one bed, I had another bed over, and saving some pennies, right, and having a good time. And you were quite still.
Yeah, in fact, when I sleep in one position on my back. I don't move. And your body gets very hot because you have the body heat and the sheet, and you have that build up with because your body doesn't turn, so it doesn't get aerated at all. So you end up having heat wake you up.
And I've heard that sometimes silk sheets can be helpful.
Yeah, silk sheets absolutely can help you move. Yeah.
And what other strategies? I remember we did some things. You were taking a bath and you were saying to me, it was just so amazing to be in your company for 24 hours or 48 hours, however it was, because you were doing strategies or creating strategies the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
There are all kinds of things to do. I mean, I just have one the other day. I'm dealing with facial masking now, which is a situation where you lose expression on your face. And I frown a lot. So this is my new thing.
Oh la la!
That way I can feel what it feels like to smile. So I can do this, feel it, and then use it. We're just waiting for the video to come back. Pam, why don't you pop on? Hey, there you are. Hi, my dear friends. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so as you watch our interview, anything that you want to add? Just brings back fond memories. I know, I was thinking about that. You went to the World Congress in Japan. I had hoped to go there as well, didn't you? Or yes. Did you? Yes. And how was that for you? That was fabulous. I think I mentioned in the interview, maybe it's the part that's frozen now, right. That I was invited to do a dance for the opening night ceremony. And I had 50 people with Parkinson's from around the world. And we had one rehearsal and one tech. And then that night we had to perform it. And I was beside myself. I just didn't know if I was going to be able to pull it off. And, you know, I had made videos of different parts of the piece, and I'd sent them to different people. And people were practicing in living rooms. And then some people didn't have others to practice with, and they were doing it on their own. and this was not in their first language. Not to mention that I was using counts to structure things, and what is she counting for? You know, they didn't understand that, and the movement was untraditional in terms of dance. You know, some of them, they'd signed up for a dance. Well, what was this ooh ah thing? You know, so there were all these unknowns, and we pulled it off fabulously, and everybody was so excited at the end. It was just a lifetime experience to remember for a lifetime.
So tell those of us that have not gone to Japan, what were some of the things that just like struck you? You've gone a couple of times, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing is that the Japanese use walking poles as a transition for balance before they go to a walker. So you had lots more people with walking poles as a functional alternative. And that was interesting, you know, and made sense to me.
And what do you feel is the difference? Because I remember talking to you after you came back, and you said, you know, how they treat Parkinson's is different. There were some differences that you discovered.
Well, I don't know about really the treatment per se. I mean, I knew there was a woman, Dr. Okada, who I did an interview with. And she is a doctor that has PD. She's had it for like 40 years or some incredible amount of time. And she was very interesting to talk to because she basically became sort of her own physician and figured out how to manage her own drugs. And being in the field, she was able to have that flexibility.
I think that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, and you got a chance to interview. You know, the part we didn't get to see, and Matt can cue it up, or we can talk about it. You tell me your preference, Pam, was about medication. And you had wanted to share with the audience some really important things that you felt were crucial. Do you want to do that live, or do you want him to?
Why don't I go ahead and do it live?
Okay, fantastic.
I think that the medication, we absolutely are dependent on it. And it's really important not to put off Sinemet, because people put it off because they're afraid of the dyskinesia that you might get as a result of it. Dyskinesia is that writhing kind of movement that people do. But you need the Sinemet in order to be able to exercise, and exercise is the only preventive measure we have. So it's not in your interest to put off Sinemet in fear of dyskinesia, because you lose the advantages of exercising. So that's one thing. But at the same time, Sinemet is not manufactured in small enough doses so that if you have to increase your dose, you take another pill, you're increasing it by 100%. And that's crazy, particularly for young onset, because you're in it for the long haul. You want your meds to spread out over as long a period of time as possible. So the drug needs to be made in 0.25 dosage, so that as you increase, you can increase by a little and see if that works. If that doesn't work, go to 0.50. If that doesn't work, go to 0.75. If that doesn't work, then you go to a whole pill. But you know, it's as if the drug manufacturers, once they have a drug that works, that's it. They don't deal with a long-term implication.
How could we, I mean, is that like a public advocacy thing that we could petition the drug companies? It seems like such an easy fix.
It's not a difficult thing to do, you know.
Right.
I have all my Sinemets cut up into halves and quarters and stuff, and I don't know whether the drug is evenly distributed throughout the pill. Now, obviously, you can't do that with a capsule, which for some people, they have Cinemet through a drug called Ritari, which is a time-release capsule. But there's got to be a simple way to address that.
Right. And you said that you were, in relationship to dyskinesia, you actually worked with your physician because Ritari didn't work for you, right?
Right. Ritari worked for me for about a year. And then I began to be quite dyskinetic. And if we get the video back, well, there's a before and after a shot.
Maybe Matt can show us that. Or, so for people that are not sure, the dyskinesia is that sort of moving, right? And that can be a result of too much of the medication, correct?
That's right. And there's a sweet spot that you have to find between not being off too much because you don't have enough medication and not being dyskinetic, so you have too much. And you have to calibrate that very carefully to find out when should you have more dopamine, when should you have less. And you need to experiment with your doctor to determine that.
I think that's so important. I think sometimes what happens with folks is that they just think, oh, this is the way it is. And what I hear you say is, wait a minute, no, don't accept that. Actually work with your doctor. And it goes right in line with your strategies, right? That one of the strategies is, wait a second, I'm living with Parkinson's. That means living. That means it's an active process. So what do I need to do, or what do I need to change, or what do I need to shift in this moment? Really, really crucial information. Thank you for sharing that. What advice can you give about the importance of your relationship to doctors, speaking of that, and building a treatment and medication plan that works for you?
Well,
how do you best advocate? How does someone do that?
I think you need to be really detailed with your description of how you are, how you function. Because the more detailed you are with your doctor, the more they can help you if they understand what issues you're facing. So don't be general, be specific, and be thorough, and write everything down when you go for your visit. So, if you forget something, you have a list to check off. And we all perform for our doctors. It's second nature, and I do too. I absolutely do. So don't be shy about communicating your problems, when you're not there just to show them that you're a great patient, but to get help as well.
That's a very important comment, I think, right? You want to look good.
You want to look good, and your ego is involved, and your sense of self, and hey, I'm feeding this disease, and you give it everything you can, and then you leave and you fall apart.
Right. And creating that sort of honest relationship. Is there also a fear that if you show the full range of how the disease is impacting you, then that might mean more medication or different things are taken away? It's very, very human. So to create a relationship with the doctor where you can be authentic and really express your concern, and somebody that knows that there are ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people, they come to their doctor's visit with a caregiver or a spouse, and the spouse serves as a check to say, no, that's not true. She doesn't do this. That's not true. And for that reason, I don't come with my spouse. I don't want him to correct me.
Oh gosh, we're so human, aren't we? Right. Yeah. What advice do you have for others who may have early onset diagnosis?
I say advocate for yourself. Trust your instincts. Don't assume that your doctors know everything. You know a lot. You live with this 24/7. You're an expert in your own way, and you can really help people in addition to yourself by being as specific as possible. And another tip is, which I felt, and also Miriam mentioned it in a question I asked her in a previous episode of this, is don't wait to fill out your bucket list, to, do what you want to do now, because you're never going to be better, I'm afraid to say, than you are at this particular moment. So don't wait. That's really something that I haven't done. There's certain things that I would really wish I had done, and I didn't plan them. So don't wait.
What are some of those things? My experience of you is actually, like last year you took a little sabbatical because you were working on this project. I actually think you do a fairly good job of prioritizing those things that you really want to do.
Well, I prioritize my work, but I don't prioritize my play. And
Gotcha.
And that's like, I've wanted to go on a rafting trip for years, and now I don't know if I can do it.
Gotcha. So. I just want you to know, I went on a rafting trip, and there was no water. So we went all that way, and the stream and the rivers and the things that was supposed to be whitewater rafting were so low that we had to oftentimes stand up and push the raft along. It was a completely different experience. So sometimes rafting is it's not all that it cracks up to be, as I guess my point.
Well, that's good for me to know. That makes me feel better.
Good. And what do you wish someone had told you? Anything? Is there anything?
I guess I wish that someone had suggested that I reach out to other people earlier than I did. I was alone for a pretty long time by choice. And I think I would have benefited from being with other people with PD, to know that I wasn't alone.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And, COVID has impacted us all in such an interesting way, right? We talked about being on Zoom and teaching on Zoom. And one of the silver linings, again, I was talking earlier in the show about that, for me is the realization that we can actually teach classes on Zoom, right? And I know that I've been working with my dad, who had a stroke last year, and I would never have attempted that, right? However, since I am teaching on Zoom, I've learned different strategies, and I know you have some different strategies for working on Zoom. What are some of the things that you've discovered?
Well, it's hard because it's hard to make a connection with people, particularly because you have to be away from the camera a certain distance for the camera to take in your whole body. So I've thought of trying, I haven't really explored these that much, but I've thought of trying to do interactive things, like if you and I go back and forth, right?
Okay, should I go?
Yeah. You can go either way. We could go.
We could be the same,
or we can go like this way, right? Yeah, like we're rowing a boat or something. Okay. Or mirror me.
Okay. Is that
this is one hand?
Okay.
So, oops. Or a high five. This
is why spending time with you is so much fun, Pam.
Just trying to find ways to connect, because that's what we're missing, is the sense of connection. And so I haven't really figured out how to work that into the physical routines I have. Because if I got to get out of the chair and run to the front and do that or back, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, my bet is on you, Pam. if you're
Well,
figuring that out. You know, you've been doing strategies for connecting, but I loved what you said is that, and that's, I think it's great advice. And like, share with someone else that need, that human need to be with one another, to be in community, to belong, to be understood, to feel that we're not alone is
yeah.
so important. And there is a vast worldwide global community. And that was one of the reasons for this series, right? We wanted to get personal. We wanted people to know about people living with Parkinson's and their stories, right? Sometimes we don't know that much about one another. And
It's so important. Over the summer, when I was teaching, I realized that when people died, I found out all this information about them that I didn't know, this other life they'd had. And I thought, why do I have to find this out after they're dead? Why not find it out while they're alive? So I instituted a talking session after our class where each person would bring a story about themselves or about their childhood or something, a favorite book they liked or a favorite quote or anything that didn't necessarily have to do about Parkinson's. It just had to do with who they are. And so that we could begin to find connections. And there were some fabulous stories that came out of that.
awesome. Well, that's exactly the reason for this episode. I have met the people that are in my class are some of the most fascinating people I know, and
Yeah.
I've had that same experience. How come I didn't know about this beforehand?
Yeah.
And, you know, if I get a chance to talk to them or go out to dinner or walk outside of the building after class or just have a chat. And then I was like, wait a second, you were a professional landscaper and you wrote a book? I mean,
Yeah, I
just,
know.
I said, it's crazy. We've got to get these stories. We've got to get them out so that people know that, as you said, Parkinson's affects is very democratic. It affects
Yeah, and we've
anyone and
got
everyone.
lawyers, we've got bankers, we've got teachers, we've got, janitors, we've got everyone,
Yeah, yeah. So anything before we go that you would like to share? Any last minute thoughts?
Come to the JCC and try out all the classes that are available for people. You don't know what's good for you until you try it. It won't come to you. You need to go out and see how you respond to things. So treat it as a smorgasbord. Take a little taste of everything and see what you like, and then do it.
Awesome. Pam, thank you so much for sharing your lunchtime with me and for all the wonderful resources you shared with us today. Let's just see. As I mentioned, Pam teaches her PD Moves class online here at the JCC. It's on Mondays, so she'll be teaching today later at 3:30 p.m. We'll put the information in the comment section. And if you'd like to participate, as a new session is just rolling out, please check it out. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And remember, everybody, this conversation is about you. So let us know if you are interested in coming on the show and telling us your story, as Pam has done. If you have any questions about living with Parkinson's or how best to care for someone living with Parkinson's, please let us know that as well. And Whitney Chapman is here. She is the one to contact at wchapman@mmjccm.org. And she will answer your emails. And then I just wanted to let you know that next week I'm talking to Suzette Chamoun, whose husband has Parkinson's, and she is a researcher, a therapist, a wife, and a mother, and she has a great deal to share with us about her journey with PD. So see you next week, everybody. Take care.